round of applause for Anya.
When I first asked her to MC, I actually asked her to give the sermon, believe it or not, because apparently whoever was supposed to give the sermon today, I guess, couldn't make it, and so, Anya gave the testimony last week, if you remember, about Winter Workshop, and I was like, I wonder if she'd give the sermon. Let's just try it out. Let's just see what happens. But she graciously agreed to MC for us, and I'm very grateful for that. She really put herself out here by coming on stage today, like anyone who comes on this stage does. And, we're all one family here. So let's give a round of applause to our family member. Amen? And as you've heard many times, we're supposed to multiply, right? Multiply our family. And we've been doing that, as you saw in the weekly update with the December 28th event. We really laid successfully that foundation of faith, like I was talking about last week, and how now it's time to put it into practice, make that foundation of substance. Because, we have all these books, right? We have The Divine Principle. We have tons of books downstairs in that closet, over 1,000 Christianity in Crisis, which you guys please take them. But what does it all mean? Like Anya said, how do we put this into practice in our daily lives? And, I was thinking about that. Like, that was my goal for coming up here. I wanted to give a practical method to apply divine principle in our lives with something that comes up every single day, multiple times a day, and that is anger. And as you can see, I had my custom logo drew in math class once again. I really love playing around with the 12 Gates logo. It's really an amazing piece of art, actually. And with anger, right, we can do so much evil with it, but we can also do so much good with it. And it has been apparent throughout history. It's been apparent every day in our lives. If you've lived a day on earth, you know that anger comes up constantly. And it's something we can't avoid. And we have to deal with it the right way. It is something that, if we want to really lay this foundation of substance on the cosmic level that True Mother's talking about, and this World Summit that members around the world are preparing for in Korea, where tons of world leaders, current and former heads of state, and religious leaders and activists are coming together in Korea to really attend True Mother as a foundation of substance. But it all starts, like everything does, in stages, right? It starts from us. Peace starts with me, which you probably heard a million times by now. But it really is true. It does start with us, in our own foundation of substance, in our own application of divine principle in making a better world. And one way I think this can happen is through anger management. And to start off, what is anger? According to the dictionary, it is defined as a strong feeling of displeasure and usually of antagonism. Think of that, antagonism, violence, war, the complete opposite of what, in theory, we, don't want, right? But yet this comes up naturally every day in our lives. This natural feeling of displeasure at someone at work, or displeasure at a student's behavior, or someone's being extremely annoying and you just want them out of your life. Just like, go away, shoo. But we have to deal with this, right? Psychology clearly has shown that suppressing anger and avoiding it makes it worse. We can't just ignore that feeling. We can't ignore this feeling that prevents us from applying principle and making this better world. And in principle, I looked in the index for the word anger. 6 entries came up. 5 of them were about Moses. And as we all know, Moses was an extremely angry dude. He killed an Egyptian. He cursed the Israelites more than once. But yet God worked through him until he messed up. In the Kadesh Barnea incident, where, if you're familiar with principle, the Israelites, they didn't attend the tabernacle correctly. God had to start over again, and he wanted to make a new dispensation based on a miracle that Moses was going to make. So he was instructed to hit a rock once, and then water would flow through it and would quench the people's thirst. However, when Moses heard the people murmuring against him and complaining that they had no water to drink, he raged in uncontrolled anger and struck the rock twice. Whereupon God said to him, "Because you did not believe in me to sanctify me in the eyes of the people of Israel, therefore you should not bring this assembly into the land which I have given them." In other words, Moses, his whole life trying to get the people into Canaan, well, he won't be there to see it. And by striking the rock twice when he should have struck it only once, Moses undermined the dispensation to start based on the rock. As a consequence, he was not permitted to enter the promised land. He could only gaze upon it from a distance at the end of his life. His uncontrolled anger caused a huge mess up in the providence. What were the consequences of striking the rock twice? Moses struck the rock twice because he was overcome by uncontrolled rage at the people's faithlessness. He acted under the influence of Satan, even on Satan's behalf. Consequently, the dispensation to start, which God had intended to carry out based on the rock, was defiled by Satan. And if we go into principle further, we find the rock has so much importance. We find that the rock represents Jesus, and how striking the rock twice indicates that he may have to go the path of the cross. I won't get into this further here. That'd be an entire lecture. That'd be a whole sermon alone. But the point is that Moses had such uncontrolled anger that when he was trying to do the will of God, when he was trying to help God, when he was trying to establish that national foundation for Jesus to come, when he was trying to help Jesus, he really only hurt him. But we have to examine further. Was this anger, having anger, wrong? Was having anger wrong? No. If we look closely, he had uncontrolled rage and he acted under the influence of Satan. Let's think about this for a second. What if he had this anger, but he let God into him? What if he acted under the influence of God? What would this anger do? What did Moses' anger do throughout the entire book of Exodus and Leviticus and all those books of the Bible detailing the Israelites' constant complaining and constant faithlessness? And Moses constantly got angry at them. Even God got angry at the people. God got angry so many times. But why was God angry? What was the purpose? Going back to the four-position foundation, what is the purpose? What is the center? God's purpose, his motivation for the anger, was to see his people in the land of Canaan, to see his people prospering, to see the foundation laid for Jesus to come. And Moses' anger, it fueled his faith. Without his anger, what would Moses be motivated by? How would he have viewed the people's complaining? If he wasn't angry and upset and frustrated at the people's complaining, he might not have done much about it. He might have let them complain. If he had decided to ignore the people's complaining and ignore his own feelings about it, the people would just keep on complaining constantly, even more, they would not have had the path to go back and repent for their complaining, to repent for their faithlessness, as is detailed so many times in the Bible. If Moses didn't have that anger as his fuel for his faith, as his fuel to realize God's will, the Israelites would not have entered Canaan at all. But when his anger was uncontrolled, when he didn't deal with it the proper way, he acted under the influence of Satan and messed everything up. He didn't deal with it correctly. He lashed out. He took his anger out on the rock. He took his anger out on God. He lashed out. He didn't deal with it the correct way. And because of that, as I've said already, Jesus' foundation was messed up. It wasn't the way it was supposed to be. And believe it or not, this is one reason why I personally really, really, really relate to Moses. Because, personally, I'm pretty passionate about the church, but the world is very contrary to it in a lot of ways. And, I see certain things, like some of my close friends, vaping and killing themselves. And sometimes I feel like I just want to lash out. I feel like I just want to just yell at them saying, why are you doing this to yourself? Can't you see? Do you listen to the news? Do you see that someone died recently because they had like 3 e-cigarettes or something? Like, do you see that? Like, there's such the urge to just lash out on them. Similar to Moses. Can't you see? God's trying to help you. Do you want to go back to Egypt? You want to be enslaved? God's trying to help you. Of course Moses would love to lash out at the people. I would. I think many of us would. And it starts with dealing with that anger. It's the serious consequence of dealing with anger. But like I keep pointing out, if anger isn't wrong, then why do we have it? It goes back to the purpose. What are we using it for? Are we using our anger to further the providence, help God, fuel our own faith? Or are we just being selfish and want to relieve ourselves? Are we trying to just relieve ourselves just for the sake of, I'm mad, I just want to, just say what I want and then I'll feel better? If you've experienced a situation in your life where you've, said something you didn't mean to say, or you've done something you didn't mean to do, it always goes back to a selfish purpose. I just wanted to do it. I didn't care what the effect was. The only benefit is for yourself. But we can't have that. We have to have the benefit of it. It has to benefit God. It has to benefit God. It has to be centered on God. So how do we do this? How do we, center on God? Because we can't just hide it. It's there. It's a natural emotion. It's what my parents termed an anger workout. Thank you, parents. They actually taught me this. And they always emphasized to me that, without, like they didn't know how to deal with their anger, and they really wish they did. Do you guys agree with that? Yeah. And it's really important. And this is why I'm sharing this. This is a critical way to apply principle. And I'm going to share it. So the first thing, okay, you can write this down or whatever. Step 1, be alone. You have to go somewhere alone. to do this. This is critical. Some people forget this because you could go in, maybe your room and like express your anger by yourself. But if someone hears you, that's not helpful. That's not helpful. You don't want anyone else to hear you. This is between you and God on a personal level. It's not between anyone else. So it is critical that you are alone. My mom does this actually. She kicks us out. She kicks us kids out. She kicks us out for like maybe 15 minutes, half hour, whatever she needs for her own personal time with God. Her own personal time with God. Just you and Him. Parent and child. A deep sharing of sorts. A deep sharing. I know youth and young adults can relate to this. In workshops, you have sometimes deep sharings with your team. We had that at Winter Workshop. The last day, New Year's Eve, we had a sharing session with our teams who we've bonded with throughout the workshop about how our years went and our struggles. And because we were by ourselves and we were close with one another, we were family, people shared really deeply. Almost every group member cried, But it helped them. They relieved themselves of their struggles, and, it was the highlight for at least people in my group. It was one of the highlights of the workshop. And it was centered on God. It wasn't centered upon, I just want to, vent my struggles on the world. I want everyone to know. And victimhood. I'm like, woe me, woe to me. That wasn't the purpose. The purpose was to share openly in order to improve your situation. Because when you just vent and say, woe to me, you're not trying to help your own situation. So go somewhere alone. You and God. Next. This is also very critical. In fact, all of these steps are critical, but you have to physically expel your anger. You can pray about your anger and say, God, I'm angry about this, God, I'm angry about that, God this, God that, angry about this, angry about that, but it's still physically inside you. Psychology proves this. Psychology has shown that, just because you say it plainly doesn't mean you're relieved of it. You have to physically expel it, whether it's through, physically shouting it, not just saying it, whether it's, the old saying like, go in your room and hit your pillow, right? I always scoffed at that. I scoffed at that for years and years and years and years. Why would I hit my pillow? That's just dumb. That's so weird. Why am I hitting my pillow? That's so weird. But it's not weird if it's just you and God. It's not weird if it's just by yourself. If I were to get a pillow from the green room or something and bring it up here and show you guys, hey guys, I'm going to hit my pillow. I'm going to show you how it's done. That is just, ugh. That'd be weird to watch, I think. Just watching someone hit their pillow. But if it's alone, that awkwardness is eliminated. Right? It's you and God. God doesn't care how awkward you may think it is. God doesn't care how awkward it is. God's just happy that you're taking care of yourself. Because when you take care of yourself, God can enter. So physically expel your anger, whether it's punching your pillow, something with your blanket, like whipping your blanket, or I don't even know, what's the term of it? I don't even know, but something with twist your towel, or something. Or just anything physical. And then thirdly, this is the most important. You've hit your pillow, you're so angry, you feel that, you feel relieved and you feel like, wow, I'm so angry. Like you feel that energy, right? After you've done it. But then it's time to pray and offer it up to God. Then it's time to set your intention. Like, God, I'm angry because, I'm angry that my friends are harming themselves. I'm angry about that. I feel like I'm angry at their ignorance. I'm angry at something. Or someone annoyed you. God, I'm just so angry at this person. Why are they so annoying? Why do they always have to make these, stupid comments every day in class or something like that? Or why do they always have to, why do they always have to bully me? Why do they always have to do this? These harmful things. Or why do they always have to say these things at lunch? I wish they were gone. You tell God all your anger. You're honest with Him. But then you say, God, I'm not strong enough to deal with it myself. We have to admit that. We have to admit that we cannot deal with it ourselves. Because if we could deal with it ourselves, the world would be a much better place. People wouldn't be lashing out, killing others, harming others, Because, and this is also, going back, DP is supposed to unite religion and science, right? And science shows that, and studies have shown that when people commit crime and people commit violence, it's usually because they have some unresolved issue within themselves. They're angry at something, they haven't dealt with it, and they're just going to express it on the world. Usually it's indirect correlation. They're not thinking, oh, my parents did this to me, so I'm going to, hurt this other person's parents because they just, or whatever. It's not that direct, it's indirect. And they haven't dealt with it. Or maybe they have dealt with it, but they still have a selfish purpose. In any case, the point remains that we are not strong enough to deal with it ourselves. So we have to ask God for help. We have to offer it up to Him. You have to say, God, I'm angry about all these things. I offer them up to you, and I pray that you can help me, wash them away. Help me, have them wash away from my heart. That's what I say every time when I do my anger workouts, as they're called, right? And this is important too. I'm saying all this. I mean, this may seem like spiritual therapy or something, but don't think of it as therapy. Or don't think of it as you have a problem. Think of it as you simply taking care of yourself. Think of it as taking care of yourself, right? My parents have told me a lot that, part of taking care of a marriage, for example, is, having tough conversations, right? Say, I feel this way, right, guys? Like you've told me, right? Right? I hope so. I hope I didn't receive that knowledge from someone or somewhere else, but yeah, I mean, you have to have those, tough conversations, things that would seem like therapy, but it's really just taking care of yourself. So when you do this, think of it as taking care of yourself. God, I'm sorry, I can't deal with this myself. I need your help. Help me wash this anger off of me. And I want to offer it up to you for a good purpose. God, this kid's being so annoying, but I want to offer up this anger for the purpose of, trying to love people more. I'm going to try to love him more, right? Offer it up to God for a good purpose. And then after you've done that, first of all, in my experience, you feel really good. The day before I started outlining my sermon, my fencing coach let us out of practice 20 minutes late. And I do not like being late in general, but I wanted to go home. I was tired. It was a long day. But yet, he decided to let us out 20 minutes late. And then I went in the car and I was like, oh my gosh, my stupid coach, he let us out 20 minutes late, and now, everything's gonna run late, and I'm just so tired, and yet I had to stay there longer, fence longer, right? And I was in a bad mood. I was pretty grumpy. But then, went in my room, alone, punched my pillow, and then prayed to God about it. And then afterwards, I didn't feel as angry. And, it may not be one time, oh, I'm not angry about it anymore. You may have to, work it out multiple times. But you will definitely feel less angry about it. And you feel more, I guess you could say, holy. You feel more connected to God. Because anger, uncontrolled, as we saw with Moses, does not help your connection with God. So once you've done this, you go forth. You go forth, more connected to God, this anger out of your system, and, you carry out your calling. You carry out, what God's asked you to do. You have a better experience at school, studying. You have a better experience at work. You're more connected to God. It's not just, oh, work is terrible. I'm angry at this person because, actually yesterday, this one coworker I work at Chick-fil-A, and I was bagging food. And this one coworker kept saying, you're going to get so, because I don't bag often. This one coworker kept saying to me, like, oh, you're going to panic, so just let me bag. And I was like, oh my gosh, stop. Like, you're not helping anything, right? That was something I was not happy about. I mean, who wants to be told that you're going to panic at work and you're not going to do well, right? But, went home, did my usual thing, and, I didn't feel angry anymore. And I actually had a really good day yesterday at work. And I keep going forth at work, with a higher purpose of, God, I'm going to try to instill a better culture at work in whatever way I can, just by being here, just by me not having this anger and not having these, negative emotions, me just being, more of a good person. I'm just going to naturally try to influence the culture. That's my purpose going to work. But if I have this anger about this coworker who's, keeps nagging me about how I might panic or something, I'm not going to, help create a better environment for everyone. I'm just going to contribute to a negative environment. And that is all rooted in principle. It's all rooted in being centered on God. It's all rooted in having a good four-position foundation with your anger. It's not hiding it. It's having the right motivation. It's all based in here. And this is just one way of many things in our lives that we can do to live out principle. That's why I shared this. I really felt that, part of something that I can contribute is by sharing something that will affect your daily lives. So I challenge you all. Try this. Try this at first very awkward, oh no, I have problems thing. Try it. And remember that it's not because you have problems, it's just taking care of yourself. Try it, please. And let me know how it goes, too. I want to know. And also, this isn't my idea, so please give a round of applause to my parents. I mean, I'm basically preaching their words and putting some principle in there. And then meshing it. And then, yay, it's my sermon. But please, 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 I'm serious, please try it. And thinking providentially, right, the big picture. What does this do, right? We're creating our own foundation of substance. We're putting principle into practice. We're putting our teachings into practice. The rally, December 28th, huge hype, huge energy, right? Huge victory. It was a good foundation of faith on the world level. Individually, it's a great foundation of faith. You leave there thinking, wow, there's so much potential. We're going to change the world. Leaving that place of 30,000 people praising God with high-level music and True Mother on the stage, really stirring up emotions within every person in the audience, right? But after that is when the real work begins, that foundation of substance, trying to eliminate our fallen natures in practice. And this is one way we can do it in our lives. And if we each do it, if we each continue to put principle into practice in our lives, little by little, we're making a strong foundation of substance individually, which comes together collectively, which will, culminate in a cosmic level foundation of substance at a world summit with leaders of countries actively shaping how the world works. This isn't just some leaders are just gonna, these leaders or whatever, they're not just leaders. They're people who are affecting how the world moves and turns and goes. These are the people that affect history. These presidents and prime ministers and, politicians of these countries, right? Collectively, it is a huge foundation of substance. But it starts with us. Peace starts with me. Amen? Are we going to try out this anger management method?
Sure.
Little weak. Are we going to deal with our anger?
Yes.
Are we going to put principle into practice by dealing with this anger?
Yes.
All right. And please let me know how it goes. I'm serious. Next week, find me after service. Please join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Parent, come to you today, offering a method to deal with anger. I come to you today, talking about anger management. I come to you today looking at the big picture of how this can really help us establish a foundation of substance. And I come to you asking to help me and help us all get rid of the awkwardness behind this. The shame behind this. The thoughts that, this is just therapy. I pray that, by us taking care of ourselves, we can really further your will. I pray that by taking care of myself, I can, make the world better. And I'm so grateful that, we have Divine Principle, who, without it, I don't know where I'd be, God. Without it, what's the purpose of just hitting a pillow, God? Why would I do that? I'm just so grateful to you and to True Parents, God, for giving me Divine Principle, giving us Divine Principle. And I pray that we can go forth this week, as we go forth to our daily lives, that we can feel more connected to you after this service today. We can feel more connected with you. And that we can really help True Mother who's on earth carrying out the providence. Thank you, and I offer up my sermon up to you, God, that you can use it for whatever purpose you have in my name. Luke Jean of the Jean family, pointing as a Central Bus family. Aju. Thank you, everyone.